Okay, in our shop we have both vertical and horizontal band saws. We're going to be concentrating today on safety on the horizontal band saw. And there's a number of things that you do anytime you run a band saw, both before, during, and after sawing. If you're not familiar with a band saw, don't attempt to run it. Ask questions from your instructor, get proper instruction on it before proceeding further. Never attempt to operate the band saw if your senses are impaired by medication or other substances. First thing you do when you're going to run the band saw is to visually look at it and make sure that all the guards are in place. On ours we have guards on the top, guards on the blade, and guards on the wheels. They should all be firmly in place. Before turning the machine on, check the area around the machine. Make sure there's no trip hazards, material laying on the floor, oil or coolant or substances that you could slip on, and that you have a clean work area. Clean work area is a safe work area. One thing you should always know about any machine is where the emergency stop button is. If the machine's running and suddenly you need to stop it for whatever reason, you need to remember where the red button is. On this machine, the green is go, the red is stop. So you turn it on with the green button, turn it off with the red button. Always know in advance where that button is should you ever need it in a hurry or an emergency. When loading the machine, loading the stock into the machine, if you're loading a heavy piece of stock, a long piece of steel, whatever, you should always get help rather than trying to do it yourself, which could result in a strain or other type of injury. When mounting the stock on the saw, make sure that you tighten it, you bring it out to whatever length you want to cut, and then tighten the vise up where the stock is held very firmly. Should the stock become loose during cutting, it can break the blade, send a part flying toward you, resulting in injury. Okay, whenever sawing, keep your hands away from the moving parts. Don't get them close to the blade. Don't try to brush chips off with your hand. Don't do anything with your hand around a moving saw blade or any other moving part on the machine. Burrs on parts can cause injuries. On the stock, when you're loading it, watch for burrs. When you're unloading it, watch for burrs. When you take a part out of the saw after sawing, deburr it with a file or a disc sander or other type of thing. Never leave burrs on a piece of stock. Okay, when you're done cutting, when you're finished cutting, you clean up the saw. Always use a brush. Use a brush to get the chips off. Never use your hands. Chips can be sharp, can result in injury. When it comes to saw blades are very sharp. If you would have to handle a saw blade during changing a blade or pick one up to move it or whether, make sure you have heavy, preferably leather gloves on. The blades are very sharp and they can uncoil suddenly and result in lacerations or other type injuries. Should you have to change a blade, do any kind of maintenance work, anything to the saw, beyond running it, you need to disconnect the power or lock it out. In this particular machine, we disconnect the power up here. Power is disconnected, and the cord is put in this lockout device. Close it up, put a lock in it. The person working on the machine has the only key to the lock. The machine can't be powered up, turned on as long as that person's working on it. That person, whoever's working on the machine, has to unlock this and plug it back in.